Good morning, Steve. It's interesting, isn't
Miranda,
it? That,
people,
it's all come out.
Yeah. Well, no, I want to go back in time, though. We're not going to let people off the hook on this thing. You came out and wrote this piece that was amazing. And quite frankly, every word of it has been shown to be true. At the time, you were ostracized, attacked, that this is crazy New York Post, this is tabloid journalism. These people are all partisan hacks that have access to grind. Walk us through what happened. And you really set the framework, the analytical framework of how this has to be viewed at the time. And you said, hey, guess what? I think voters have a right to actually know the facts here. So walk through what happened back in October.
Well, that was October 14. That was the morning that we broke the Hunter Biden laptop story at 5 a.m., as you say. Our front page story and my accompanying column were published. And immediately, that was just poo-pooed by the rest of the media. And then we had Facebook announce that they were throttling our story a few hours later. And then Twitter basically locked our account for the next 2 weeks. So we've seen recently, thanks to Project Veritas, that CNN in their news conferences were saying we're not going to run this because the New York Post has no credibility and this story has already been debunked. And, of course, it hadn't been. What we had published that morning was brand new evidence which put the lie to Joe Biden's repeated over several years denials that he knew anything about his son Hunter's business dealings overseas, including in China, where Joe Biden, as vice president in 2013, took Hunter, his druggy, wayward son, to China for a 2-week visit on Air Force Two, where he was introduced to a lot of bigwigs in China who were more than interested in ingratiating themselves with the vice president's son. And he walked out of there with a $1.5 billion deal with a subsidiary of a Chinese bank, whereas Joe Biden came away empty-handed on behalf of the United States because he'd ostensibly gone to China to try and get the Chinese to stop stealing America's intellectual property, to stop militarizing the South China Sea islands that are so threatening to America's allies in that part of the world, including Australia. And China just went on merrily doing what they wanted. And the only price they had to pay was a few deals for Hunter Biden.
I want to also go back in the time. By the way, the reporting of Emma Jo Morris and the team at the New York Post and the reporting and analysis of Miranda Devine, every comma, every period, every word is actually true. It has never been proven one iota wrong, and now we know federal investigators are reviewing the material and doing formal investigations. More importantly, I got to go back to this, Miranda. You were actually, the New York Post and you and Emma Jo Morris and the team were accused of being dupes for a Russian misinformation campaign. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, it's just insulting and it's laughable, but it came from I think there were 50 former intelligence operatives signed a letter saying that it was Russian disinformation. You had James Clapper, of course, CNN contributor, paid, saying that this had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. I mean, you know, Emma Jo Morris had spent more than a week investigating that. Then we had an entire team on the laptop. We had the hard drive, which Rudy Giuliani's lawyer gave us several days before we published. I mean, the due diligence on that was immense, and we were comfortable and confident that every word we published was correct and accurate and verifiable. And there was a lot of other stuff that we hadn't yet published because we were still in the process of checking it out. I mean, it is a treasure trove, that laptop, and the FBI, as you say, have had it since last year when the Mac Shop repair guy who came to own it after Hunter Biden fecklessly abandoned his laptop there, he'd given it to the FBI. And in fact, we knew before the election, James Rosen from Sinclair Broadcasting got the scoop that the Department of Justice confirmed that they were, in fact, investigating Hunter Biden's laptop and Hunter Biden and his family for money laundering. And that was 4 days before the election, completely ignored by the media, which just swallowed willfully Joe Biden's aggressive denials that he knew anything about his son's business.
These were not done. These are stone cold lies, and I hope YouTube puts up stone cold lies. I want to go into something. I was part of that team that approached the New York Post, and here's why. Rupert Murdoch, one of the most sophisticated, whether you like him or don't like him, like his politics, don't like him, one of the most sophisticated media executives and owners in the world, and in probably modern media history. I believe he has publicly traded market caps of different companies of $60-70 billion. He's a fiduciary. His team of technology people, his team of lawyers, his team of reporters led by Emma Jo Morris, his chief columnist Miranda Devine, these are people beyond repute with a history of breaking news of serious stories. It's a paper founded by Alexander Hamilton, I think in 1802 or 1805. It's the oldest continuously published paper, I believe, in the nation. One of the most prestigious papers and one of the largest papers. And it was vilified and attacked by lies, outright lies from the national security apparatus and from their cohorts in the mainstream media. I want to go up today, though. Your piece that's this morning, the reason we wanted to have you on, was the Biden family has put the national security of the United States of America at risk. And Miranda Devine, in her dispassionate way, walks you through why this is a major issue. Let's leave aside for the fact about this, all the issues about stealing this election, about who actually won. This is a point that we have made now for months and months and months, even for the hard drive. But it's been brought up in the New York Post reporting, Miranda Devine's analysis, and now she lays it out, that the Biden family is a national security risk to the United States of America, her citizens, and free people throughout the world. Miranda, walk through your assessment.
Well, there's an influence peddling operation that's been run by the Bidens overseas for many years, and they've capitalized on Joe Biden's position as vice president and now, to be president. And it's so blatantly obvious. I mean, it's not just the emails that we've published from Hunter's laptop. It's also the testimony of a very credible man, Tony Bobulinski, who was the former partner of Hunter Biden. And he's spoken a lot about Joe Biden's involvement. I mean, it's not just that Joe Biden's son and brother have been trading off his name. It is that by the testimony of Bobulinski and also by emails that we've published, Joe Biden was aware and involved in this family business. And that is a real concern because as the two Senate committees with their incredible bombshell report that was published just on Tuesday and may have precipitated the this sort of confession by the Bidens that Hunter was under investigation, that bombshell report from Ron Johnson and, the Republicans who lead those committees, that tells us that there is serious threats of extortion and blackmail and criminal conspiracies involved in all the evidence that they've amassed about the Biden family businesses. Now, if that isn't a national security risk at a time when China is our primary national security threat, as DNI Radcliffe said the other day. There's no doubt about it. All the intelligence agencies know this. And yet you have a man who is potentially walking into the White House next month as the president, who is compromised. As Tony Bobulinski said, he has been compromised by communist China. That is really dangerous. And it's incredible that this story, probably the biggest story in American political history in the last 50 years, is being ignored and played down by the rest of the media. I do not understand it unless they're either willfully ignorant and naive, or they are so in cahoots with the Democratic Party that they will overlook anything. And maybe they're setting up Joe Biden to be knocked off so that Kamala Harris can become president as soon as possible.
Miranda, we got about a minute left. I have in your professional opinion, having been someone that's had this beat for many, many years, do you believe a special prosecutor should immediately be put on top of this Biden family situation?
Of course. I mean, that is the only way that you're going to be able to safeguard America's national interests. There has to be a dispassionate prosecutor with special powers to be able to investigate every part of all the Biden family's goings-on overseas, with the ability to subpoena records and look at, phone messages and so on. And, a material witness there is Tony Bobolinsky, and he has everything all recorded in WhatsApp messages and text messages and emails and documents that he's happy to hand over. So we need to get to the bottom, particularly, there's problems in Ukraine and Kazakhstan and Moscow, but China is the money shot. That is where America's national security interests lie.
Miranda, we've got about 15 seconds. How do people follow you during the day? What's your social media contact points?
At Miranda Devine and on Parler, Miranda Devine and Facebook, and of course at the New York Post.
Amazing reporting for Emma Jo Morris, the team over the New York Post, yourself, and for all the grief you got. You're right. This is a story